Hello from Crankworx, I'm Dan Wolf. Today we're going to take a deeper dive into the Trinity Gravity Bike. Let's go. This is probably the most interesting bike you'll see all weekend. I'm here with Mick Williams himself from WRP and Trinity, and he is going to go through this entire bike head to toe, which may take several minutes, and I think it's going to be incredibly interesting. What do you want to talk about first?
Man, I don't even know where to start. I mean, it's been a culmination of years from like on a WRP side, but also a Trinity side. So
yes,
I don't really know where to start. I mean, yeah,
let's start with this gearbox. What made you decide that you needed to go the gearbox avenue?
Okay.
And creating your own gearbox, how difficult was that?
To be honest with you, a gearbox for me making one wasn't really on the agenda until sort of Trinity came along. So when the three of us kind of formed Trinity and we started making bikes, I was just kind of thinking about it. I was like, you know, you could probably literally bolt a derailleur onto the side of the frame, you know, and that was like the original version that you saw on Pinkbike. I expected it to go nowhere because I was just sort of seeing if it would check out.
Yes.
Pinkbike kind of got interested back then. And to be honest with you, like I just 3D printed literally like a derailleur hanger that went off the side of the frame, bolted a cassette there, whatever. I didn't really know where that was going to go, and then, you know, the Pinkbike comments started to sort of fire up and whatever, and I was like, oh shit, there might actually be some legs to this gearbox thing. Maybe like if I put in 20 minutes to 3D print some stuff for this, what would it mean if I actually put, you know, thousands of hours into trying to develop something? So I would say that it's been a bit of a labour of mistaking my way to a product.
Would you say then it's quite a literal approach to the gearbox, like as a problem? You've just gone at it as like bit by bit, trying to go, okay, well, what do we need now? And do I need like a sprout clutch or floating parts?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's an ever-evolving thing. Like, I guess there's subcategories to the gearbox, right?
Yes.
I mean, like I was fortunate in the fact like I'd already had like the center hub product out there, which was like a front bottom bracket freewheel.
Yeah.
But then a lot of the design for that gearbox actually came from center hub patterns. So like, for example, like how the chainring is driven is just a derivative of the center hub. So the way I approached that was like, oh, I've already got like direct mount spacers for cranks that would go to, you know, so it's kind of, for me subjectively, like the gearbox is like an overarching project, and then there's sub-projects under that have kind of culminated to actually...
The spider web is growing?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it's kind of a little bit hard to work backwards as you see it now. There's
Did you base the suspension, like kinematics and design, around the gearbox because of the space it takes up, or did that actually come first?
Not at all. It was a little bit like the both kind of work synonymously. So the way, and just to kind of fill everyone in, so Trinity is a company that I own alongside Chase Warner and Nigel Petrie.
Yes.
So Chase was I guess the originator of Trinity. He did 2D sketches and the kinematics and whatever, and then was talking to Nigel, and then I got bought in, whatever. So as far as the frame as like a silhouette as you see it, Chase had sort of designed up years ago with the kinematic. So this is where it was like totally by luck. The fact that we've got a shock that sits like dead horizontal helped a lot, right?
Yeah,
that's
very rare.
The fact we've got like essentially like a inverted 4-bar, like with the rocker back there, worked really neat with creating just that space. So I was very fortunate, I guess, approaching the gearbox with like, there's actually like this void there that otherwise we didn't know how to fill. We were talking about like a swap box down there, like all that type of stuff. So yeah, unbelievably, like the gearbox has had no impact on the frame design. The frame design all came before that. So
yeah, in a sense, there was like many little signs along the way that you needed to go with a gearbox. Yeah. And since then, you've had how many iterations of the front and rear end?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, well, this is V5, so this has got a stamp in the head tube V5. So we did a version 1, which Pinkbike covered, and then we did, I think Pinkbike's covered a fair few of them, but we did a version 2 that used lugs, like printed lugs. We did a third version.
On trend?
Yeah, on trend, We did version 3 with lugs, and that was kind of testing like the flexural characteristics, all that type of stuff. And then version 5, which is pretty well identical to this, to be honest with you, was no lugged because ride characteristics was beautiful. And then the difference between V4 and V5, literally the only difference was thinner gussets, because V4 was used like 2mm gussets, so it was quite weighty.
And was it maybe stiffer?
It was too stiff.
Yeah, okay. So really it's just been a ride characteristic change. I think just this entire bike is so unique.
There's a fair bit going on.
Have you found the bike's quieter now because of a gearbox, or corners better because your weight's centralized?
I mean, all of the above. Even like I feel jumping is quite nice. I mean, sometimes it can be harder to crack a fat whip because you've got like a lot of weight between your legs.
But it's much more stable?
It's much more stable. Yeah, much more stable. I think ride character, it's one of those things, like the first thing I noticed, particularly because with this, we've got the tensioner on the mainframe, not off the chainstay.
Yes.
And what that means, and this is like a common thing that people, I guess, overlook, particularly even with, I won't use the word like pedal kickback, but pedal feedback, is by having a tensioner on an unsprung member, that tension is just going wild. Whereas as soon as the tensioner is off the mainframe, which is a sprung member, is now all the tensioner is doing is actually taking the tension of the chain growth of the chain. It's not interrupted just by the movement of the rear wheel going up and down, if that makes sense. So the main thing I noticed, to be honest with you, was just how quiet the chain was, because it was tensioned off the mainframe. But yeah, it's those 1%ers that all kind of add up.
Look, and a quiet bike makes you ride faster because you don't think you're just going to blow up at some point.
Like there was a bit of work that went in, like for example, I mean, you can see it from the angle we're at, but like that point there, like the center of where the cassette sits is exactly 165mm. So it's like...
I was just going to ask about crank length, and then I noticed like the straight through the pedal axis just goes in through.
So in theory, it's perfectly balanced.
Wow.
So I mean,
it doesn't matter what, right foot forward, left foot forward, it's just bang on. I think we could talk about this bike for honestly a few hours, and maybe we'll continue to talk after this. But thank you very much for the interview.
Anytime.
Honestly, it was class.
Love it.
That is the Trinity Gravity Bike Check. Much deeper dive into it. I hope you enjoyed it. Please let us know what you thought of the bike. Would you ride this? How do you feel about gearbox in general? Do you think that is the future? Please let us know below, and we'll see you at the next one. Cheers.